Hi, I'm Rachel Gabriel. I'm a professor of literacy education at the University of Connecticut, and I study reading policy. So today's a great day for reading policy in the state of Connecticut because we have some new information about a law that passed last summer that people have been waiting for a long time to learn more information about. So I'm going to walk through what came out today and then also give some predictions about what that might mean for us. If you've been following the impact of the Right to Read bill in Connecticut, then today is a day that we've been waiting for a really long time. In some ways, it's a little bit of a surprise that this information came out today because the person who we've been informally referring to as the reading czar is still an open position. The State Department has yet to hire someone to be the director of the Center for Literacy Success that was created under the Right to Read bill that passed last summer. But they have released today the guidelines for an open review period for the curricula and or programs that are going to be considered for the list of 5 that the law requires this director and their committee or panel to come up with. And what's new about this law is that it will specify 5 core curricular programs that districts have to use for their pre-K-3 literacy programs. Districts that want to use something else will have to submit a waiver. The information about that waiver has not been released yet, although we have some hints about it in the law itself, and there'll be a separate video about that you can check out soon. So in this document, we have the dates of the open review period. It's basically the month of May all the way up to the 25th. So from now until then, just about 3-ish weeks. And then also the criteria and guidelines for how programs will be evaluated. At this point, districts or publishers can submit things for consideration. And these programs need to include, all of these things that everybody would expect a core program to include. And the review process is going to be basically the process that was developed by Massachusetts for programs that the State Department of Education in Massachusetts will recommend. They do not require these programs, but they are recommended. And they're recommended through a process of teacher ratings that you can learn about by following this link, and we will have a little exploration of that in a separate video soon. But basically, we once again have stolen the Massachusetts process and are going to take a look at what that will get us. Interestingly, Massachusetts has already gone through this process of having teachers rate using these tools, and in a somewhat more detailed version than the version that is included in this document. And so we're going to take a look at the things that they have identified. Spoiler alert, it's exactly what you thought it would be if you've been following laws like this across other states. So if you want to find some more detailed information about the kind of review process that Connecticut seems like they're going to be moving toward, checking out the site that was created by Massachusetts about this process originally is a pretty good place to begin. There's information about the process, there's reports on individual programs, a couple of related resources, and there's a list of the programs that have been approved or for recommendation. These are currently the usual suspects. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom just so you can see them all together. It goes from Wonders to Wit and Wisdom to MyView Literacy, which is the Savvis Learning version, the digital version of Reading Street, which is another McGraw-Hill product, and also includes CKLA, Experiential Learning Education, the American Reading Company, and Amplify ELA. If you look across programs in states that already have pretty strict requirements about what can be used K-3, you will find all of these over and over and over again. Wonders, Wit and Wisdom, Reading Street, Amplify, EL, Education, CKLA, and ARC Core. States that have fewer options available, it's going to be one of these. States with more options available, it's probably these plus a little bit. These are also sort of the usual suspects in terms of who gets high ratings on ed reports. And we'll have another video about ed reports and how that all works or doesn't really work for folks that you can look out for in the coming weeks. But this is not a huge surprise given how these are rated by other entities and the fact that they are appear on lots of lists and the fact that they are, for the most part, the new digital version, either of some of the old big textbook publishers like McGraw-Hill and Houghton Mifflin, or they are the newcomers, the tech-based publishers like Amplify and Savvis and what's the name of the other one? Oh, right, this one. So predictions, it's going to be really difficult for a team in Connecticut using the same rating system and the same sources of evidence to come up with a list that's terribly different from the one that they have in Massachusetts. It doesn't help or it doesn't hurt that this list is also pretty similar to the list that we see across other states that have mandated core curricular programs, and that it's pretty similar to the list that you would find if you just sorted EdReports' website by program rating, which basically means it's kind of a circular process unless districts decide to disrupt it. And I think there are a few ways that districts can do that. There are a few ways that other programs that don't appear on this list and don't tend to get placed on the short list might be able to be explained, modified, framed as meeting these criteria in important ways. There are also ways that districts could advocate for some criteria to be weighed differently and or for additional criteria based on the populations and the needs and the context that they are planning for. And so I think in lots of ways, the waiver process is going to be a really good process for districts in Connecticut. If you have or want a program that doesn't appear on this list, going through the process of creating the justification for it, shoring up why you're doing what you're doing, and making sure that it really does work for the kids in your setting is the right work to do. And it's going to make everybody better, especially if we're public about it, especially if we are sharing kind of how we're understanding the justification, the criteria, and the things that go into selecting a really great core curricular set of instructional materials. However, if we leave it to the state, we can imagine that we will get some subset of this list unless a district submits or a publisher submits during this period and really rocks the conversation. So I'll be interested to see what gets submitted and how these things are framed and explained, and be really interested to see how districts are working internally and also working together to submit waivers in order to do the kind of work that they want and need to do for the students in their districts. Stay tuned.